What's going on, guys? It's Mike, and today I want to share with you the results of a bunch of research that I conducted recently. A couple weeks ago on my email list, my newsletter, which I'll put a link in the description below, I sent out an offer to do an hour of free consulting for anyone with a business of $500K in revenue a year or below, or anyone that was getting ready to start a business. And I said, hey, look, I'm doing market research. I want to talk to you. I want to hear about your biggest problems, your biggest challenges. What is it that's keeping you from the next level? And in return, I'll give you a free hour of consulting, some advice, some help on how to move forward. And it was fantastic. I got a huge response to all of you that participated. Thank you. Last week, I was just stacked with phone calls. And I have to admit, I was kind of dreading it a little bit. I love working with people. I love my client work. Those of you that know, I run a consulting practice. I typically serve privately owned businesses. These are like mid-sized, larger companies, tens of millions, close to 100 million in revenue. I get in there and do marketing and brand strategy, business strategy, et cetera. But I want to help people just starting their entrepreneurial journey. And often we can assume it's like, hey, I know what they need, so I'm going to go ahead and put together services and products and all that. And I thought, no, I want to talk to these people. I want to understand what is their biggest challenge. And today I'm going to share with you kind of the main finding that I had and some insights around that. But what happened is I got a ton of people responding, which is great. I'm not surprised. I mean, my list has a lot of business owners and people that want to be in business. Not everybody, but a lot of folks. And they said, yeah, I'll take you up on it. So last week was just stacked from morning till close of business with hour-long phone calls. And I'll say with strangers, those of you on my list, forgive me, I don't think of you as strangers, but once it becomes real, like we're going to talk, it's like we've never talked before, we've never met, we don't know one another. And I just looked at this week of phone calls going, oh goodness, I like working with people. However, a week of just hour-long phone calls of giving was a bit daunting. But surprisingly, I found it fantastic. It was just an amazing experience. And by the end of it, I was like, man, every single minute that I spent on this last week was just phenomenal. I ended the week like on a high. Every phone call, I would get more and more energized because I got to talk to great people, hear about their businesses, hear about their challenges, and then help them. And in many cases, there were big breakthrough moments. At least, that's what people were like excited and like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And it was just very satisfying for me and hopefully for those that participated. What I want to do for you today is to share with you the biggest challenge that I observed people had. And I was kind of surprised by this. I expected I would get a mix of challenges, and there was a bit of a mix. I thought some would be like, well, I'm having trouble closing deals, and I'm having trouble with some of my pricing, and I don't know how to get to people into my funnel, like a lot of that kind of stuff. More tactical, more like I'm stuck with some type of skill. What I found, which was really stunning, and this is really everyone shared the same problem in different variations, but the same problem. And that was, I don't know what to do next. I've got so many options. There's so many things that I could do. And all of these things have potential upside. This isn't like I've got to deal with this problem or deal with that problem. It was like I could be focused on so many different things. I'm one person, I've got a small business, or maybe I've got a staff of 2 or 3 or 5, or I'm getting my business started and it's just me. And there's just such a list of things I could be doing. I could be doing YouTube. I could be on Twitter. I could be doing an email newsletter like you are. I could be revising my product or refining my message, or maybe I need to pivot. And should I write a book? And maybe I need to build some processes and systems that support the business, and maybe I need to add other features. And it was just like this list of stuff, and folks were stuck, whether they had a business that was going or they're trying to get launched. They felt overwhelmed by the potentials, the opportunities. Now, I found this kind of interesting. I was not expecting that. And as I, kind of dug in with each entrepreneur, each business owner, and as we kind of got at the root of their specific situation, I started to see that there were a number of reasons that this happens. Now, it's not a surprise that we feel overwhelmed by options. This is the world we live in. If you go back 30, 40 years ago, you didn't have a whole lot of options. I mean, marketing and business was not digitized. You couldn't communicate digitally. There were just a few platforms, traditional things like print, radio, television. If you want to do advertising, those had gatekeepers. They were expensive. You had to have money to make money. The digital revolution, if you will, has changed all that. And what ends up happening is, whereas money was the scarcity, money was the thing that you needed. You needed investors. You needed cash to run a business. Now we've kind of flipped the script. And people erroneously think this is amazing because now I've got so many options. But what now becomes scarce is time and attention. You don't need money anymore, but you need time and attention. And those are actually harder to come by. And here's why. Money you can always get more of. I know you go, Michael, you make it sound so easy, but it's true. You don't have a limited supply of money. You might right now, your wallet or your bank account may be limited. But you can always get more. People can loan you money. You can use credit cards. I don't advise that. You can get small business loans. You can get investors. You can find little side hustles like it's fall in North America, go rake lawns and do some lawn care work and get some cash in your pocket that you can then pour into your real business that you're trying to build. There are all kinds of ways to get more money. There's no limit to the amount of money you can get. However, every human being only has so much time and so much attention. It's a limited supply. Once you use it, it's gone. Right now, you are attending to this video. You're giving me your time. Thank you. And I want to give you value back for that. But when you spend this 10, 15, 20 minutes, however long, this will be a long video, I'm sure, because I got 5 insights into how to overcome this issue. When you give me that attention, you can't get that back. Don't click off. You've only got so much time. You can't get more time. And so now we've got this misconception that, oh my gosh, it's so amazing because I've got so much and it's free. Yeah, it's free, but the actual cost to you is higher. Yes, you don't see it in your bank account, et cetera, but the actual cost is higher. Once you burn a minute, once you attend to something, you can't attend to other things. You can't get that minute back. You got a limited supply. Okay, so what do? People were wrestling with this on these calls. I had so many calls, so many people wrestling with this. What do you do? There's a lot of answers to that. I don't have a framework of here's the 6 steps. What I want to do is share 5 reasons that people tend to feel overwhelmed because there are different reasons for this. I want to share 5 reasons. And for each reason, I want to give you what I would say is a way to solve that problem. And I will share these in no specific order. This is not in order of rank or higher, just 1 through 5. You're going to find yourself somewhere in there if you struggle with this. So the first reason, number 1, is you have conflicting goals. You haven't actually done the work to define what it is you're trying to do. So if you're sitting there saying, I don't know if I should start a YouTube channel, I don't know if I should be writing a book, should I be running Google ads, I'm not sure on what to do next to get my business moving forward. Often that is because you have not defined your business very well. You're sitting there saying, I kind of want to start a YouTube channel, but then I think maybe I should write a book. Those could be different models. YouTube has a number of models that fit underneath it on how one uses it to make money. Now, you can use it in different ways. And how I'm using YouTube to help grow my business may be different than how someone like a Marquez Brownlee is using YouTube to grow his business. Obviously, he and I are very similar in scope and size, obviously, but but we have different models. And I want to clarify, it's not that there's only one way to use it. There's multiple ways, but you've got to identify what is your business. What is it that you're trying to accomplish? What is it you're trying to build? And so that's what you have to do to solve for this symptom, is to step back and go, well, what is it I'm trying to build? Because once you have an idea of what you're trying to build, you can then leverage the right tools. You can identify the right tools and leverage them in ways that help get you to that goal. So often when people are like, I don't know what I should be doing, it's because they really don't know what they're trying to do in the long run. They haven't been able to make that decision as to what is it I'm building. So if you know, like in my instance, you're going to do consulting, that doesn't necessarily limit you to one platform. I mean, there are various ways that I could build my consulting business, but once I understand that I'm growing a consulting business, then I know, okay, if I'm going to use YouTube, I'm growing an audience of potential people that fit my market and so on, and this is what I need to do to convert them, and here's what my funnel looks like. I think a lot of people are struggling to build their funnel because they don't know what they're funneling to. So that's the first one, is not really knowing the business that you're trying to build, and thus you end up with so many options you don't know where to start. Figuring out what you're trying to build will help you get to what options should you use, how should they fit in, and what do you need to do to use those things effectively. So that's number one. Number two is related to this in that you know the business you're trying to build. You know you want to do like a content business, a publishing business, a media business, or a consultancy like I'm doing, or you've got some retail space. You've got that figured out. You know what your offering is, and you know what you're trying to build around that offering. What you don't know is your market. And so I'll go to retail. It's like, I know that I want to provide, fashion items, clothing, accessories, etc. And I've got a retail space. But you don't have an idea of who your market is, because once you understand your market, then you know what tools to use. And I'll explain. If you're looking at the plethora of options that you have, and you're like, I don't know what to pick, it's because you're not thinking about your options through the eyes and minds and hearts of your target audience. So you may know who they are, but you're not even thinking about them. You're just thinking about, well, what should I do? Should I be on YouTube? Should I be on Instagram? Should I do direct mail? What are the things that I ought to do? As soon as you know who your target market is, if you're in a retail space and you're trying to sell to young women or middle-aged women with some money and it's fashion, and you're trying to figure out how to reach them, once you identify who the people are that you're selling to, it kind of comes easily. It becomes obvious on what platforms, because then you can say, well, where are these women? Where are they? What are they doing? How are they behaving? How do they make decisions? And that starts to inform your funnel. So if you're looking, you got a makeup brand that's direct to consumer online, I would imagine YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. Those are your three. And to varying degrees, which one is going to be the most influential? Well, TikTok's probably not going to serve your 45 and above professional women. I would assume that your millennial group, these are just me shooting from the hip, would be more on Instagram. But if you're trying to sell to 22-year-olds, you might want to consider TikTok. And that's where you're going to be at the top of the funnel to promote your brand. Now, once you're on TikTok, you're like, do I run ads? Do I do organic content? And again, that gets down to how your target audience behaves, how they make decisions. It's probably going to be a mix. Once you identify your target market, it becomes much more obvious on what you should do. Now, let's say you're going to sell to CEOs of corporations, that you've got some consulting or some type of product offering service that's tuned to these people. These are people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, both men and women, predominantly men, highly educated, highly successful, very wealthy. These people read, quite frankly. So YouTube videos like I make, TikTok videos, obviously not going to do it for you. Even doing LinkedIn content, probably not going to do it for you. However, doing something like, I would say, writing a book might put you in a much better place. Getting speaking opportunities at exclusive private events, probably going to help you, etc. So that's just an idea of how knowing your target audience then helps you define what options, tactics you should be using. The third reason, and this one's a tough one. This is call avoidance. This is something that classic salespeople struggle with all the time. What do I mean by call avoidance? Salespeople are paid to land new customers. They get a commission typically. And the way that you get new customers is you reach out to them. It's marketing's job to kind of draw them in. It's marketing's job to nurture them. It's marketing's job to kind of get someone interested in maybe what you have to offer. But typically at the end of the day, in your classic business setup, your traditional business model, someone's got to go out there and sell. Someone has to knock on doors, get appointments, interact with customers, and sell. Now, granted, if you're selling rubber duckies for the bathtub, you don't need a rubber ducky salesman unless you're trying to get those rubber ducks into Walmart. Then someone has to go and sell Walmart on saying, hey, we got a really beautiful product here. People seem to love it. You all ought to put it on your shelves. That's an example of when you need sales. But if you're selling direct to consumer, obviously you're running TikTok ads, you're getting people to your website, and you're selling rubber duckies. Okay, great. But in a lot of businesses, you need to sell, especially if you're a single entrepreneur and you're trying to get something going. You've got a service or some type of product that requires a bit of interaction. It's not a $9.99 sale online. Maybe it's $1,000, $500, $5,000 service product, whatever. Someone's got to make a sale. And so what people end up doing is they avoid making the calls, figurative calls. They could be literal. You could say, well, Mike, nobody uses the phone anymore. But you've got to reach out to somebody somehow. Probably like me, your inbox is flooded with all kinds of offers of helping you with whatnot. These are salespeople trying to get a discussion going with you so they can close a deal. So call avoidance is this fear of rejection. It's this fear that you're going to fail. And so what even excellent salespeople do is they have this human desire to avoid the pain, avoid the shame, avoid the rejection that comes along with selling. And so they will avoid calls. And what ends up happening is they get really busy. Oh yeah, I'm organizing my desk. No, I'm working on my database, and I'm updating to make sure I got all the right information, and I'm organizing my prospects, and I gotta get some new equipment, and I can't call these people until marketing gives me a better brochure. Our brochure's got a typo in it, and I can't show up without more information and it being accurate. So there's all this kind of activity that happens to avoid doing the very thing that you have to do, and that is making the call. And so how do you overcome this? Well, first of all, you got to just get good with the fact that you're going to get rejected. You got to come to terms with the fact that, yes, I'm actually avoiding making calls. I'm fearful. Sometimes that's enough just to dispel the stress, the fear. You just got to be honest with yourself and say, I'm looking at all these options. I'm thinking about writing a book. I'm thinking about creating a YouTube channel because I just don't want to go out and sell. I'm fearful of being rejected. And you have to understand, hey, that's okay. That's normal. The other thing you can do is kind of dip your toe in the water. What I like to do sometimes if I've got a list of prospects, there are some that are like primo, I want to land this account. I work up to it. I take the accounts that are not that primo, that are lower on my list. I don't want to say garbage. I feel like that's disrespectful to a prospective client. But maybe they're smaller. Maybe I think there's some dysfunction in the business that's going to preclude them from even considering me. I know it's not going to go well, but I'm not worried. I don't really care what these people say if they reject me. So I'll reach out to them. It lets me just kind of get in, because what ends up happening is you realize, what, that wasn't so bad. That guy, he was a little rude, but honestly, it was kind of funny. And because I didn't care so much, I kind of shot back a little bit. I wasn't rude, but I gave him the business and it felt good. I got rejected, but now it's kind of like when you're in the boxing room. When I was a kid, I didn't do boxing, but I got into fist fights as a kid. That's right. And usually you're terrified. I was often smaller as a kid. So you had to be scrappy to kind of prove yourself and to push people back. Otherwise, they'd push you around all the time. So I was a little smaller. You're scared until that first punch. And when you get punched for the first time, we're talking about, 11-year-old kids. This is not like I got crushed by the 20-year-old and knocked all my teeth out. But 11-year-old kids don't hit that hard. And so when you get punched in the jaw or, in the chest or something by an 11-year-old kid, you're like, oh, that wasn't so bad. And then you can unload. You're like, boom, 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 I'm in. We're on, game on. But you need that first swing. You need that first hit. You need to get in the ring and start actually fighting. And then you start to realize, no, this isn't so bad. I got this. I can do this. And yeah, you're going to take some hits and you're even going to lose. That's okay because that's how you get better. So a great way to overcome that is to realize it's fear and then get in there, maybe chase some accounts that are not so special, don't have the whole success of your future riding on it, and go after those ones and take a few hits, realize, you know what, this isn't so bad after all, and then it'll free you up to really dig in. And actually you'll learn some things which you can then take to those more special, more important accounts when you're calling on those to be more successful. Now, the fourth reason that I think people get overwhelmed by options is this failure to launch, a fear to launch. Often we have a vision, we have a dream, we're building a business. This is more for people starting a business than it is for people in the midst of a business. But we're building this thing because we've got a dream, a vision. And that dream could be for the perfect product. This dream could be for a level of success, a level of notoriety and recognition, a level of wealth, a whole lifestyle that we want. We've got so much invested in the success of this business that we get fearful that we may screw it up. There's a failure to launch because of fear. Again, this is like call hesitation, but it's not necessarily the fear of personal rejection as much as it is, if I launch, I may fail. And if I fail, all my dreams are destroyed. They're crushed. And so what people often do is they spend a lot of time working on the business to get it perfect before they go to market. It's like, well, if I can just change this, or if I can just do that, what if we add this feature? What if we add this benefit? Well, hold on a second. What if I market over here? And what if we probably need to revise our message? And it's just this constant perfecting and changing and tweaking of the business and preparation and putting systems in place and processes worked out, but never going to market. And a lot of this is rooted in the fear that if I don't get it right, my dreams will evaporate. I will have missed out on this vision. Or I'm trying to realize I've got a vision in my mind. I want to realize it perfectly. And if I go to market, I don't have it all figured out, my vision will never come to pass the way that I envision it. Again, I think an incremental approach is so helpful here. This one's a little bit different. Whereas with call hesitancy, I was saying make an incremental approach to your market, meaning start calling on lower level prospects before you work your way up to the really valuable ones. In this instance, you got to come to terms with the fact that your vision is just a vision. It's not reality. It's just something in your mind. And the only way that a vision becomes reality is it becomes instantiated. It becomes real in the real world. You don't have to deliver that thing whole, just like pull the curtain back and go, ta-da, and hope that the market loves it. That's not how it works. You want to be more incremental. You see some of this in lean startups and so on. What you want to do is more of an incremental approach. And so you take a piece of your idea and test it in the market. Test the ideas. A great book around testing ideas is called The Mom Test. I forget the author's name. I think it's Ryan Fitzpatrick. It's something Fitzpatrick. The Mom Test is a good one. You can go out and test the idea just by talking to people. You can take a component of your business, maybe launch the component, maybe run a pilot. Start getting aspects of your idea out into the wild and be more incremental. And don't assume that being incremental stops you from, over time, building and releasing the whole thing. But think about ways that you can test it. Sometimes if you've got an online business, a digital business concept, you can test the idea by running some cheap Facebook ads for a while to see what kind of response. Now, the response isn't a go, no-go. The response may tell you that it's a good idea, but the message isn't quite right. All right, tweak that until you start getting a decent response. Then say, okay, we're testing this idea. It's a good idea. Let's go a little further. There may be a way, maybe you've built an email list, maybe not. Maybe you take a segment of that list, not the whole list, and you test a concept with that segment. Maybe you have customer conversations. Maybe you offer something, a limited offering, that then allows you to kind of get the idea out into the market and to see what the response is. As opposed to this always perfecting but never launching. You got to get your feet dirty. You got to get your feet wet and your hands dirty. The last problem that we all deal with in our lives, but is directly related to this, and a reason that people will get overwhelmed with options, is FOMO, the fear of missing out. It's this idea that if I commit to one thing, earlier I said you only have so much time, so much attention. If I give my time and attention to one thing, that means that I'm missing out on other things. And I'm afraid that I'm going to miss out, I'm going to make a wrong step, etc. Yes, there is an element where you have to make a choice. You have to make choices. But if you understand your business model, you understand the market that you're going after, you've been testing your ideas, you shouldn't worry about the fear of missing out. You're not going to miss out. You have to make choices. That's part of life. And strategy is often what you're saying no to. It's not saying yes to all these things. It's what you're saying no to. You're choosing not to do some things so that you can focus on other things. But the thing with a business launch or taking a business in a certain direction is nothing's ever cast in concrete. You're not like setting something so rock solid that you can't make a change. So for instance, now that you know all this other stuff about your market and your business model, et cetera, you can try something and you can learn from it. You can say, well, I'm going to run some YouTube ads. It doesn't stop you from writing a book down the road if you learn more and realize a book is better. It doesn't stop you from modifying your offering. If you launch with a certain offering and you realize the market doesn't love it, there's 100 case studies in the market over the last 20 years of companies like Airbnb that launched as one thing and ended up being something else. That's classic. But you got to launch. You got to get it out there. So this idea of fear of missing out, people are fearful that if they make the wrong move, they're stuck. Or by saying no to one thing and saying yes to something else, they're going to miss out on this whole other opportunity. And so they just don't want to commit. You've got to realize, say to yourself, look, this is a process of iteration. That's how businesses thrive and succeed. You got to be okay with it. And you got to understand it's okay if you decide not to do something. It doesn't mean you can never do it. Yeah, you get married to Sally. That means you chose not to marry Susie. And your life with Sally is going to move forward. Okay, that's a big decision in life. Fair enough. But you're launching a business. You're not getting married. And if you put a service or a product out there and the market doesn't react in the way that you're hoping, you can pivot, you can modify, you can check adjust, you can do all these things and iterate to the perfect situation. If you do that, you're going to have an amazing life. The vision that you had in your mind is going to be realized in a way that was better, more effective, and more impactful to your life in ways that you could have even envisioned. So those are the 5 reasons. Guys, I hope this was useful to you. Earlier on, I mentioned my newsletter. If you are interested in signing up, link in the description below. It's for people interested in business, strategy, wealth creation, etc. Do me a favor, subscribe, like, do all the things that you're supposed to do as a good YouTube content consumer. But do me a favor, whatever you've got on your mind, whatever is on your heart, pursue it. Take this content. Let me know in the comments if this is relevant to your situation. And never forget that Uncle Mike, he loves you. I love you guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Cheers.